Joining me now is Republican Congressman from Nebraska, Representative Don Bacon, who is also a retired Air Force Brigadier General and member of the Armed Services Committee. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
It's an important time in our country. It's a very important weekend. As we just heard from Trevor there, President Trump will be at the Dignified transfer ceremony today. And he previously had stated, quote, there will be likely more deaths, referencing U.S. troops in this conflict with Iran. And of course, we've got military families listening in and watching very closely with a worried heart. What do you make of that statement and what we're about to see today?
So the dignified transfer is a very solemn process. It's for the family. I always try to warn elected people, this is not about politicians. This is for the family, to honor them and to honor their loved one who gave their all for our country. And I think the president's just being honest. We're fighting. This is a war. I'll make that very clear. And Iran and the IRGC and their military are going to try to strike back, and they're going to try to do their best to hit U.S. military and our allies. And to just assume that there's going to be no more casualties is, I would say, it's erroneous thinking. We have to know we have a thinking enemy, and they're going to try to strike us. And things happen in war that are unpredictable. So, for example, who would have predicted Kuwait would accidentally shoot down 3 of our F-15s as we're coming into base to land, right? War is unpredictable, and you have a thinking enemy. And so I think the president's just being candid. This is a tough and it's a dangerous situation, but it had to be done. Iran with a nuclear weapon is unthinkable. And we cannot forget they have killed over 1,000 Americans since 1979, to include some of my friends. This was long overdue.
As we take a look at your history and your experience, I just want to remind our viewers that you've got 16 assignments with 4 deployments to the Middle East, including Iraq, including Operation Iraqi Freedom. So as we take a look at the mission at hand right now, the president posted on Truth Social about Iran's surrender, writing, quote, Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East. They are instead the loser of the Middle East and will be for many decades until they surrender. And then he goes on to say that today Iran will be hit very hard. So, listen, I mean, we know that we're, in the situation that we are with Iran right now. Let's talk about the declaration that the president made with that statement and what you expect to see.
Ultimately, we need a new government. I think that is the goal. The president maybe doesn't say it that clearly, but his actions are. When you take out the Ayatollah and 40 to 60 of the nearest leadership around him, that is leadership change. And we need a government that's for the people, that represents the people, not a new Ayatollah. A new mullah regime does not work. And we have to have a government that is not seeking a nuclear weapon and wants peace with its neighbors. And and we have to realize Iran has been the biggest threat in this region, since 1979. They had proxy terrorist groups in almost every country surrounding them. The biggest threat to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, all came from Iran. And obviously they were propping up Hamas and Hezbollah threatening Israel. They tried to kill our president. We know that. And so a government that wants to represent the people and that wants peace with its neighbors and a nuclear-free country, that's the ultimate goal here, in my view. That's what we should be working for.
I'm just wondering, too, what you're hearing with the folks that you work with on the daily as we're moving forward, number one. Number two, we've got a New York Times analysis showing, quote, that Trump is the first president in the era of modern polling to take the U.S. to war without the support of the public. So I'm just wondering, again, what you're hearing from the people that you work with, and also ask you, could this hurt Republicans on the ballot come November midterms? There's a lot of conflict with how people are reacting to this.
It could hurt us if it goes south in the months to come. It's too early to say. I've seen polls on both sides of this. Frankly, I've seen polling that the public would favors this operation if it's like a month long. But if it goes longer, those numbers go down. I do think we should be clear. We don't want soldiers. We don't want boots on the ground in Iran to any significant degree. That would be too much like Iraq and Afghanistan. But I think an air-intensive operation is different. Now, if this goes on for a long time, I think the numbers will go south. if this is a month-long operation and we're successful in taking the fangs out of this Iranian government and this Iranian terrorist
Sure.
government, then I think people will say he did right. But the results are still in the future. So I just think the president's going to have to work hard to get the right results, and I think the voters will support it. I do believe most of my colleagues, at least on the Republican side, are supportive if it fits those parameters, no boots on the ground, about a
Right.
month-long operation. And I think that that is seen favorable. That's why I voted the way I did this week on the War Powers resolution. Now, if we go 2 or 3 months and we get stuck in a quagmire of some type, we can bring this vote up again and change it.
Listen, we know that it could be short, it could go long, but how long do you think this is going to go on?
It'll be about a month, roughly. And I think we'll have some kind of involvement militarily thereafter, but probably at a very low level. The real goal here is to help the Iranian people get their government back. And we saw, thousands and thousands of people protesting, over the last month or two. It's really get those people a chance to get a government that responds to them, not an Ayatollah that represses women and threatens all their neighbors and hangs people off the light poles. That's what they do. They execute people. You see them hanging in the middle of the square. And this is what this government's about. They murdered roughly 50,000 Iranians in the last 2 months, shot many of them in their hospital beds that were wounded.
Yeah.
It was a terrible regime. And by the way, one of the most incredible stories, there's going to be a great book on this someday, is that the commander of the Quds Force was actually working for Israel. That is a tremendous story in its own right. We know very little bit about it right now, but when that book comes out, I'm going to read it.
Okay, well, listen, I always say that we have the best guests on this show, and you show it there. Republican Representative Don Bacon from Nebraska, thank you very much for joining us and giving us your perspective on this.